Well, how are you?
I'm doing very well. You look lovely.
Thank you. As do you. I love this top you're wearing. It's great.
Oh, thank you very much. I call this my judge top. Thank you. Well, welcome everyone to Together We Rise, uplifting conversations for challenging times. I'm Katie Zeppieri, and I'm proud to be the host of what is a daily broadcast at 1 p.m. where we bring on an inspiring guest. And, shortly after the real push was made in the Toronto area, in particular in Canada, for us to stay home and to quarantine and self-isolate and physical distancing as much as possible, I started to see posts from my peers just commenting on how hard this is on their mental health, because of course we're all worried and anxious and praying for those on the front lines. And some of us have spouses, or we are those people actually going out and doing some of these essential services. And so this is really meant to be a community and a spot where we come together and we get to learn from someone that we look up to and admire. And Marci, this is like your time slot, right? Like 1 o'clock is like, we think of you when we think of 1 o'clock.
I feel so at home right now. 1 p.m. is the time, albeit this is a Saturday, but 1 p.m. is.
1 p.m. exactly. Okay, I'm just getting a comment here from our producer that it's frozen a bit. How is the connection on your end, Marci? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Let me see if I can hear you. There was a little bit of okay, we're getting the thumbs up. So I think Jess is saying we're good to go. So I'm going to continue. So we think of Marci Ien when we think of the 1 o'clock time slot. We also think of her when we think about those faces and people who bring you joy in your day. And I'm excited to get a chance to have this conversation and hear a little bit about how Marci is coping with COVID-19. So let me give an official introduction to our guest today. Marci Ien is a co-host on CTV's The Social. And prior to joining The Social, Marci was the news anchor and co-host on CTV's Canada AM for more than 13 years. Also a UNICEF Canada ambassador and an entrepreneur who started her own fashion line. She's the co-founder of Ian Lee Inc. And that's really just scraping the surface. So Marci, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure. I was thrilled that you reached out, Katie. So thank you so much. Appreciate you.
So to kick us off today, why don't you just talk to us a little bit about how COVID has been impacting your life, as well as your career, the social angle, and your business?
So let's start with the professional aspect of this. We're actually doing the show, The Social, from our homes. So if you tune in at 1 o'clock, you will see Mel at her house, Cynthia at her house, Lainey at her house, Jess at her house, and I'm at my house, literally in this position where you see me right now. And that has been really, really different. They basically sent us some equipment. We're using, our iPads or our phones to do this. But at the same time, it's just created a sense of normalcy, which is needed right now, where I've got a schedule, and that schedule really doesn't differ a lot from the schedule I would have pre-COVID. So we have an assignment meeting where we discuss different topics that might interest our viewers. We have time to prep, and then we are on the air per se. So that has been the great part, to have that sense of normalcy and that sense of routine. I have to say though, I am used to taking the subway every morning and going to work, and I miss that. I miss stopping at my local coffee and tea place, picking up something to drink as I make my way into the studio. So those things have changed. And personally, I miss my family. I mean, I have my kids right now, which is fabulous, but I haven't been able to see my parents in such a long time. They're in their 80s. It's been hard. They're not particularly savvy with technology. So, FaceTiming is really not an option. We tried, but it just doesn't seem to work out. So we rely on the telephone. And for me right now, that's not enough. I get the sense sometimes that when they're saying they're okay, they're not necessarily okay. So I'm a little bit worried about that right now. I miss hanging out with my friends. But what I do realize, Katie, at this time is that there is a difference between social distancing and physical distancing. And physical distancing means we have to be apart and we stay in our homes, but that doesn't mean we can't connect. And now more than ever, we've got to connect with our family and friends. Pick up the phone, talk to those people, maybe your friends that you haven't seen or heard from in a long time, make sure they're okay. And so I've been doing a lot of that, reconnecting with people that I haven't been able to talk to or spend time with in a long time. And that's been great.
I've seen the posts that you've been doing recently, just kind of like reminiscing with your dad at Raptors games, which I know was like something that you love to do together.
Yeah.
And there really is like, we've had some therapists on the show because our goal here is to add a positive spin to mental health. But they were talking about we really are grieving the things that we've lost as we're trying to keep positive. And so one of the things that we're always curious about learning from each of our guests here is what are some of the strategies and routines that you do, Marci, that kind of help keep you centered on a day-to-day basis?
It makes me very, very happy to be able to, cook for my kids. When they're happy, I'm happy. So, learning new recipes, I've been doing that. Sharing recipes online with friends or just via email, things that are working. Being able to take long walks, albeit physically distancing. I mean, those are the things that make me happy and feel connected, knowing that those that I take care of are happy. I'd also really like to reiterate that it's okay not to be okay. This whole idea that we have to say we're fine all the time isn't something we need to do. It's okay to say, you know what, this has been a rough day. Believe me, I say it. This has been a rough day, or I'm not so great today. And being able to actually say those words. We don't have to be strong all the time. I also see this as a time, Bill Gates, I think, said it best. He said he sees this time as the great corrector, to look at the things that maybe we haven't done so well, the fact that we don't take care of the most vulnerable in our society so well, the fact that we don't move forward with kindness and empathy all the time, and the idea that we can come out on the other side of this as better people. So I'm finding, trying to find on a daily basis the lessons in all of this too, and hoping that really we are better on the other side of this, that it's not all doom and gloom.
Yes, I'm worried that there might be a little bit of a delay. We're having some tech issues, but you can hear me right now.
I can.
Okay. Okay. I was saying that I'd be curious to know, just based on that Bill Gates quote and talking about this time being sort of the great corrector, what do you think the other side is now going to look like for you? How are you going to live differently based on what you're experiencing right now during this COVID phase?
I am definitely, Katie, not taking one thing for granted. Remember just a couple of months ago how we could say to a friend, let's meet for coffee later today, or how about we go see a movie, or I'm going to take my kids over to see their grandparents, spend the afternoon. I am not taking 1 second for granted. There are times in people's lives, if you speak to people who have been through traumatic experiences, the Holocaust, just people I've interviewed through the years, through wars, who have lost loved ones, they will say that after those experiences, they learn not to take people for granted or time for granted. And this is one of those times where we have to look and see, now that we are limited in what we can do, we've got to be really selective about who we spend time with and what we do coming out of this. I'm going to be better at saying no to things I don't want to do and saying yes to the things that really matter and that I feel can make a difference, because we've got to operate on this whole idea that we've got limited time, and how are we going to spend that time? So I'm very much right now focused on legacy and doing the things that make my heart sing and the hearts of others sing.
And as a broadcast journalist, you have that in you. That's part of your DNA. That's part of who you are. You've been on the pulse of what's happening in the world and what's happening in the news for decades. And so I think for all of us now, where we're especially tuned in, but also having time away from the screen as well.
When I was doing AM, there were often stories that we covered that I called Quilt Stories. And basically what that meant was stories for me that had to do with kids who were harmed in some way, people that were vulnerable, that were harmed in some way, just complete devastation, tragedy. And I would call them quilt stories because after the day ended, I would go home and get under my quilt and just have to get away and spend time away and tune out completely. And that's how I dealt with things. You know, it would be kind of a quilt story, a quilt day, and then, you know, going for a long walk. I worked for many years with Seamus O'Regan, who of course is now in government, a minister in government, but he said something that I always remember. And he said, you know, doing this kind of work, Mars, you have to make sure that you've got something to look forward to, something happy to look forward to balance things out. And that is something that I've lived by because he is so correct. And that doesn't mean something that takes a lot of money or maybe even a lot of time, just something special, whether it's, you know, seeing someone you haven't seen in a long time, making a phone call, having, you know, a special day, a special walk, just having something to look forward to so that you can get through that difficult time. Kate, that was the most difficult thing for me as a reporter. Because I felt things. I've always felt things. And so I wasn't one of those reporters who could leave my work home at work. I would take it home with me and it would sit with me. And so, you know, oftentimes it would be, you know, a quilt time where I'd block everything out and pull my duvet over my head and just have some quiet time. So I would encourage people, you know, it's important to know what's going on, but you don't have to be inundated. It's enough to know what's going on, you know, on a daily basis, dip into a television broadcast or read the paper and then dip out. And if you feel it's getting to you, step away because it is about mental health and mental well-being right now.
Oh my goodness. So powerful. You're getting so much love in the comments, Marci. And this is my first day trying AirPods. So I am hearing from our producer there that it's cutting in and out a little bit.
Yeah,
and
a little bit. It's better though.
We're recording today's broadcast because this is so good and we want this information to last. So if it's okay with you, I'm actually going to go run and grab headphones and we'll be right back, everybody. Yeah. Q, you know what? Maybe I need to play a track or something. Let me load something here.
In the meantime, while Katie's doing this, do you have questions at all? Because I can answer them. Ah, Katie's back. That was quick. Oh. Hi, you want to know how the book's coming along?
How was that?
The book's coming along. Yes, very well. I was just answering a question, Katie. Someone asked how the book was coming along. My book's coming along really, really well. We're on track for September. So thanks for asking.
Oh my goodness. Can you give us any insight of what we can expect from the book?
Sure. It's basically life experiences. It gets really, really personal because frankly, I don't know how to be any other way. So it gets into my life at home, it gets into life at the studio, it gets into people that I've interviewed and things that I've learned along the way. There are aspects of my childhood, my family, friends, famous people that I've interviewed along the way, just all sorts of experiences. And it culminates, it's almost like, how do I describe it? It's almost like reading a diary. That's what it's like. It's almost like diary entries. Wow. And so that's what's coming. I've been working on it for some time now, and it's set to be released, to be published in September.
Marci, it's so exciting. I'm just like, even preparing for this show, like looking back on what you've done and what you're doing, it's like, what isn't Marci Ien doing? You're doing it all. And it's really inspiring to see. And I feel like you always, I'm just going to speak to what I'm seeing in the comments, what I notice and observe from watching you. You always speak with such a calm authority and grace about you. I feel like with every situation that you're thrown into, you handle it with such grace, and it's really admirable.
I have to speak to that, Katie, because it's so kind of you to say. I mean, sometimes speaking from the heart, speaking to what you feel is right can create controversy. You know, when I was reporting on a daily basis on AM or as a reporter for CTV National News before that, my job was to interview people and get their stories, to listen well and make sure that their experiences were the primary thing. Now doing the social, it's completely different, and it's something that I've had to really get used to because it's about my experiences. All of a sudden, it's turning the mic around and it's how do you feel? It's about opinion. And as I've shared my experiences and my stories, that hasn't always been appreciated by some people. And it's been hard sometimes, you know. I understand that, you know, with the good comes the bad. But there have been times, you know, just this past week where I thought, do I even continue with social media because it's a bit too much? There are a lot of people who just don't like what I have to say, and primarily because I am a Black woman saying it. But I, you know, have a right to speak my truth. And frankly, I now get paid to do that, paid to share my opinion. So it's not always easy, but do I feel it's the right thing to do? And do I feel that, you know, I've been given a very big microphone and I have to use it responsibly and speak for others? I absolutely do. So I keep on keeping on.
You're building on a topic that we've been coming to a few times here, because so far for the show, you know, I think 98% of our guests have been female, and we're featuring really strong, powerful women. It aligns a lot with the work that I do with my Girl Talk empowerment organization. And so one of the conversations that I had earlier this week with the editor-in-chief of a major newspaper in Toronto, Toronto Sun, Adrienne Batra, she is the first visible minority female to lead a major newspaper in a metropolitan city. And we were kind of having this conversation about having the courage as a female to stand up for what you believe in. And sometimes that kind of goes against maybe what studies show, where women want to be liked and want to please. So I'd like to ask you to kind of speak to that a little bit. If you have any sort of tips and advice for how you kind of find that confidence to sort of stand strong on your opinion.
Well, it's wonderful that you mentioned Adrienne, because there's something there about what you said. And you said, Katie, that she is a first. And there's a certain responsibility that comes with those that are first. I was the first Black woman to co-host a national morning show in our country. Adrienne is the first to do what she does. And so the whole idea behind that is that it's not just about you, it's about those coming after you. There is, you know, an idea of not just you walking through a door, but you carrying people on your back as you walk through a door. So it's a very specific thing. It's not just about being a woman, but it's also a woman of color doing this. Because there isn't a day that goes by where I think, I've got to do my job better than most. I have to make sure that I don't mess up. Because if I mess up, there are repercussions for those who may want to do this after me. So there is that huge, it's pressure. I mean, it's an honor, but there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. The whole idea of being a role model as well. You know, am I saying the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? People are listening. Others may not get a chance if I don't do the right thing. So there was all of that. I don't have a choice in the matter. I have built this career with the help of some amazing people through the years, and I'm in a position now where I'm not just speaking for me. In the book that I'm writing, I talk a lot about the dash. And this is a story I've told before, but my dad was a longtime educator, and he would walk onto the floor of his cafeteria, whatever school he was at the beginning of every school year, holding a cutout of a tombstone. And he'd say to the kids, what's the most important part of this tombstone? And they would scream out, oh, it's your name, it's the day you die. And he'd say, no, the most important part is the smallest part, and it's the dash, because that's what you do on this earth. It's the legacy that you leave.
Wow.
I've been thinking a lot about that. He would say to his kids that it was his responsibility to make sure that he took care of their dash while they were with him, and that they would be better people when they left his school than once they came. And so I've been thinking a lot about that. We named our son Dash for that reason. He's named after my dad.
No way.
Yeah, we did. And it's something I think about all the time, because really, Katie, I have more years behind me in this industry that I likely have ahead of me. And so it's, how am I using this microphone? Am I using it the right way as a woman of color? Am I using it in a way that will empower people. All of those things are really, really important to me as I continue to move through this industry.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely powerful. I love that story. And we're getting somebody starting a hashtag in the comments, like dash, hashtag dash, or like, I don't know, live your dash. Like, I feel like that is a great way to look at life. And I think especially right now, as you've touched on, in a moment of pause where we are and a moment of correction, we can really evaluate, are we living that dash to our fullest extent?
Exactly, exactly. And how can we empower others to live their best dash? Can we do to mentor? What can we do to help? How can we push people forward instead of, taking a strip off of them and hauling them back? I mean, these are all of the things to think about right now. We've got a lot of power, and we've got to kind of embrace it and use it for good.
We have a featured question here from our mental health partner. So when we went and sought out to start Together We Rise, we had a mental health partner join us right away, which I was really excited about, because for people who are struggling, we want them to know that there are supports and there's ways to seek therapy. And First Session is our partner. They're an online platform that gives people the opportunity to find and connect with a mental health professional. They can go to the firstsession.com website. They can watch videos with all of the therapists. They can choose which feels like the right fit for them, and they can do and book their therapy online, which is phenomenal. And so we partnered together on this question, which is, there's still stigma in society about mental health and going to see a mental health professional. Why do you think it's important to break down the stigma around mental health and around therapy?
There is so much silence, isn't there, when it comes to mental health and those struggling. And we know that that silence can literally kill. It's absolutely imperative to be able to go and speak your truth and be honest about what you're feeling. A couple of years ago, I did a special for Bell Let's Talk with some amazingly talented colleagues. And what I found, Katie, during that time, we traveled the country from Nunavut to Atlantic Canada, speaking with people who had struggled with mental health. They had different issues, from obsessive compulsive disorder to depression, to addiction, you name it. And we talked to them in their living rooms and kitchens, and they told us their stories. And I have to tell you, I mean, some of these people looked absolutely fine if you were to just see them face to face. One woman had her own company. She was an entrepreneur, a successful businesswoman. Another young man in Nunavut was a student leader. Another woman was a former beauty queen. I mean, one was a lawyer that we spoke to. And they said, listen, it's easy to hide. It's easy to hide. It's easy to hide these illnesses. The fear is real that if, we all thought, and they all said this, if we told our truth, that we'd lose our job or we'd lose our standing in our community. And then, at the end of our conversations, the common refrain was, it felt like a weight had been lifted just to speak about it, just to tell the truth about it. And sometimes that meant there were tears during our interviews, but it was just this release. And the other thing that I noticed, that once people started talking about how they were suffering or coping with this, they couldn't stop. And they understood that they weren't alone, right? Because there are more of us going through this.
Yes.
And not. Like, there isn't anybody who hasn't struggled in some way, even in a small way, with mental health.
Yes.
So it's always about knowing that, yes, you're not alone, and the truth will set you free, and the truth is your truth, meaning speak it, find somebody to talk to, and there absolutely is help out there, and it's imperative that we look for it.
There are just so many wonderful ties to what you're saying, so whether you're as a female, whether it's as a woman of color, whether it's speaking about mental health or mental illness, when we speak our truth out into the world, we give permission for other people to do the same.
That's
And
right.
we pave a path for them. So I just love that as a great symbol for everything that we've been discussing thus far. And I could chat with Marci forever, and you're getting so much love in the comments here, because truly thank you for taking the time to just share your heart with us today. I want to move into the last part. So if you haven't watched Together We Rise before, basically the last section of the interview is a lightning round. It's 10 quick questions for our guest to get some of her recommendations and to have some fun. So Marci, first off, what makes you a good person to be quarantined with?
I tell good stories.
Yes, you do.
I have good stories.
The flip side to that is, what could potentially make you a not so great person to be quarantined with?
That I chat a lot, so I might be tired, right? Like, it's like, okay, be quiet already. We've heard enough. We just need some silence now.
Favorite quote to keep you motivated?
It's always darkest before dawn.
Whew. Your go-to pump-up song?
Oh my gosh, there's several. Oh my goodness. I do, okay, Pump It Up is one of them. You know, the pump, I think it's Joe Budden. Okay, I love the song so I also like some Beyonce. It's Destiny's Child mostly, though.
Yes.
Soldier a lot.
Yes.
Soldier is really, really good. There are a lot of them. My gosh, they come to mind.
No, this is great, because now we're going to take your recommendation, and I'm feeling some Destiny's Child Soldier for our Monday guest. We play before they come on. So.
Oh my gosh! Listen, I have to tell you, I'm reading Jessica Simpson's book, Open Book, and it's great because she references opening and singing with Destiny's Child, and the stories are fantastic. So it's maybe even play some more, but it's great.
Your current at-home workout?
Walking is what I'm doing. I have a treadmill as well, but I just like being outside when I can, just to get out there and go for long walks. Also, my daughter Blaze found this, it's this 8-minute ab workout. So we kind of move the furniture and we get down and do these exercises. We try to do them daily. I cannot remember the man's name right now, but he's an Australian trainer and has this online ab workout that Blaze and I try to do every day. So it's crunches and it's like bicycle stuff and planks and that kind of thing. But we've been doing it daily.
Amazing. How about your go-to healthy snack?
Oh my gosh, does it have to be healthy?
No, I guess no.
I like hummus. I like hummus and pita chips a lot. And fruits I like a lot as well. And nuts. I love almonds and walnuts, that kind of thing. Unhealthy, I like potato chips and I like chocolate.
Okay. I wanted to ask you the unhealthy question. Yeah, because it's all about balance, right?
It's about balance right now.
Book recommendation.
I just talked about Jessica Simpson's book, which is great. It's our book club book on the social this month, and it's really, really great. And that's because I like autobiographies. My favorite one is Andre Agassi's Open. Came out many years ago, but it's still one of my favorite books. It is a great story of how he came up in Las Vegas and his relationship with his dad and how he got together with Steffi Graf. It's a great, great story.
Okay, how about your Netflix show recommendation?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so they're making us wait because The Last Dance airs in the States before it airs here in Canada. So I'm waited with bated breath. I think it's 3 a.m. that it'll land on Netflix, the next 2 parts. But I watched the first 2 parts. This is about the late 90s Chicago Bulls led by Michael Jordan. And they call it The Last Dance because the coach, Phil Jackson, at that time, was only getting 1 more year on his contract. They thought this would be the last year that the team would be together. And so Phil Jackson dedicated and said, this year is called The Last Dance. So let's give it our all, guys. So it's just a documentary crew following this basketball team in their lives. It's awesome. The next 2 parts come up on Monday/Tuesday. So I'm waited with bated breath.
Adding that to the watch list. That sounds amazing. Any new skill or hobby that you are trying now that you're maybe spending a bit more time at home or want to try?
I've been doing Duolingo. I've been practicing every day. You know, my French, listen, I took French. I think I took OAC French, but speaking it I'm still not great. I can understand more than I can speak. So I've been taking these Duolingo online courses for the last couple of weeks, and it's going pretty well. So hopefully I can speak French a little bit better when we're out of quarantine.
Amazing. Yeah, très bien. Someone's commenting. That's awesome. Jess. Shout out to our producer Jess, who is bilingual and who's like totally here for this. So that's awesome. And a big social fan and a big fan of yours as well, Marci.
Yes.
Lastly, where can people connect with you outside of today's live broadcast?
They can always connect with me online. So you can find me on Instagram, marci.ien. You can find me on Twitter. I'm not on Facebook as much, so I would say those two things. And you can always reach me through the social website as well. I'm not hard to find.
And we can check out your fashion line. We can...
Thanks for reminding me. And you can find me. My friend Diane Lee Clemens and I started a fashion line at shoes that we're doing right now, and some purses and some other accessories. We are called Ian Lee. Diane's maiden name is Lee. My name, of course, is Ian. And so we combined our surnames to form our company. And it's taught us so much so far, but we're having a lot of fun, So please check us out.
I checked out your site before coming on here.
Yeah.
Amazing styles, amazing stuff. Absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you to everyone for tuning in. This was just a way to spend your Saturday, was it not? We're getting so much love here in the comments because Marci poured her whole heart out for us today, gave us some insight, gave us some inspiration, some words to think about. I know I'm going to be looking at not only this time, but I think my life differently with that concept of the dash and how we're spending our time. And Marci, you always just like break right through the surface stuff and hit deeper. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Katie, thanks for thinking of me, and all the best. Take good care, and congratulations on everything that you're doing, because this is important stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. We'll be back on Monday for Together We Rise at 1 p.m. A whole new week. We announce our guest lineup for tomorrow, and we're going to make it. So wherever you are, if it's a good day, if it's a bad day, if it's somewhere in between, we're going to make it to the other side of COVID-19. We really are all in this together. We lean on each other, and that's why we got to keep this community going. Even though we're physically apart, we can still come together. So thank you. Have a great rest of your Saturday.